The night her husband finally laughed at the word impotent, Vanessa knew something had changed. For 6 years, that word had been her sharpest weapon. Whenever she and Damilare quarreled, she threw it at him without mercy. Sometimes she shouted it. Sometimes she whispered it with a cruel smile. Other times, she said it in front of people, pretending it was a joke. But that night, Damilare did not become angry. He did not raise his voice. He did not walk away and lock himself in the guest room as he usually did. He simply stared at his wife across their luxurious living room, loosened the sleeves of his white shirt, and laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the cold, empty laughter of a man who had finally stopped believing in the woman standing before him. Vanessa's confidence disappeared. "What is funny?" she demanded. Damilare picked up the glass of water beside him and took a slow sip. "You," he replied. Vanessa folded her arms. "You think this is a joke?" 6 years, Damilare. 6 whole years of marriage, and you cannot get your wife pregnant. Yet you walk around this house behaving like a complete man. He placed the glass down carefully. "Vanessa." "What?" "Another woman is already pregnant for me." The room became silent. Even the humming of the air conditioner suddenly seemed too loud. Vanessa blinked. "What did you say?" Damilare leaned back against the sofa. "You heard me." She searched his face for a sign that he was bluffing, but there was none. His expression was calm. His eyes were steady. "Stop lying. She is 4 months pregnant." Vanessa's lips parted, but no words came out. Damilare continued. "So the next time you feel like calling me impotent, remember that another woman is carrying my child." He rose from the sofa and adjusted his shirt. "And you should start counting your days in this house." Vanessa stared at him as though she had never seen him before. What frightened her was not only the pregnancy, it was the certainty in his voice. Damilare knew something. The secret she had carried into their marriage was no longer safe. And for the first time in 6 years, Vanessa understood that the man she had spent years humiliating was finally ready to destroy the life they had built together. Vanessa Ajayi had always been the kind of woman people noticed. She was tall, elegant, and perfectly composed. She knew how to enter a room without appearing desperate for attention, yet somehow all eyes would still follow her. She worked as a senior brand strategist for an international communications company in Lagos. She wore expensive perfume, spoke confidently, and lived in a tastefully furnished apartment in Lekki. From the outside, Vanessa's life seemed complete. But at 28, she received news that shattered the confidence she displayed to the world. It started with heavy menstrual bleeding. For years, her periods had been irregular. Sometimes she would go 2 or 3 months without seeing them. At other times, the bleeding would become so heavy that she had to remain indoors. She dismissed it as stress. Her career was demanding. She slept late, traveled frequently, and survived on coffee during busy periods. However, when the pain became unbearable, her mother forced her to visit a private hospital. After several examinations, blood tests, and scans, the doctor sat across from Vanessa with a serious expression. "You have multiple uterine fibroids," he told her. "You also have polycystic ovary syndrome." Vanessa stared at him. "What does that mean?" The doctor explained that the fibroids were growths in and around her uterus. Some were small, but 2 were positioned in areas that could interfere with pregnancy. PCOS was also affecting her hormones and ovulation. "Does that mean I cannot have children?" she asked. "It does not mean that," the doctor replied carefully. "Many women with fibroids and PCOS become pregnant, but in your case, it might be more difficult. You will need proper treatment and monitoring." Vanessa's face became pale. "How difficult?" "We cannot predict exactly. It may happen naturally after treatment, or you may require fertility assistance. We also need to monitor the fibroids. Depending on their growth and location, surgery may eventually be recommended." She barely heard the rest of his explanation. One sentence had already taken control of her mind. "It might be more difficult." On the drive home, her mother, Mrs. Ajayi, kept assuring her that everything would be fine. Women have overcome worse things, she said. You are still young. But Vanessa was terrified. She had watched two of her cousins struggle in their marriages because they could not conceive. She had seen relatives whisper behind them at family gatherings. She had heard mothers-in-law suggest second wives and secret children. Vanessa had always believed she would marry into a respected family and have at least 3 children. Now, for the first time, that future seemed uncertain. Do not tell anyone, her mother warned her. Vanessa turned towards her. What? Men can be unpredictable, especially Nigerian men and their families. Once they hear that a woman may have difficulty having children, they will run. But what happens when I meet someone serious? You will deal with it when the time comes. Mummy, I cannot marry someone without telling him. Her mother sighed. You are talking like someone who has never seen how the world works. Medical reports are not prophecies. The doctors did not say you can never have children. Start your treatment. Pray. Take care of yourself. When you become pregnant, nobody will need to know. Vanessa wanted to disagree, but fear was stronger than honesty. She told herself she was not hiding infertility because the doctor had never declared her infertile. She was simply protecting private medical information until she understood it better. That was how the secret began. Not with cruelty, not with a plan to destroy anyone. It began with fear. 2 months later, Vanessa met Damilare Adeyemi. Damilare was different from the men who usually approached her. He was not loud. He did not boast about money or arrive at restaurants with a crowd of friends. He was a 32-year-old property developer who had slowly built a successful company from the ground up. He came from a comfortable family in Ibadan, but he had made his own name in Lagos. They met at a corporate launch organized by Vanessa's agency. Damilare had arrived late, wearing a dark blue suit without a tie. Vanessa was supervising the event when one of the lights near the entrance suddenly went off. While everyone complained, Damilare held up his phone torch so she could inspect the faulty connection. You look like you are about to arrest somebody, he said. Vanessa looked at him. I might arrest the electrician. Then I should probably stand far away. I do not have money for bail. She laughed despite herself. That simple conversation lasted less than 5 minutes, but Damilare asked for her number before leaving. Within weeks, they became inseparable. Damilare was patient with her. He remembered small details. He called to ensure she had arrived home safely. He listened when she complained about work instead of immediately trying to solve everything. For the first time, Vanessa felt safe enough to imagine marriage. That safety should have made it easier for her to tell him the truth. Instead, it made her more afraid. Each time she considered telling him, she pictured his expression changing. She imagined him becoming distant. She imagined him discussing it with his parents and deciding she was too much of a risk. So she postponed the conversation. After 6 months of dating, Damilare proposed during a private dinner overlooking the Lagos waterfront. Vanessa cried as he placed the ring on her finger. She cried because she loved him. She also cried because the secret was becoming heavier. That night, she told her mother she wanted to confess. Mrs. Ajayi immediately discouraged her. You have started treatment, she said. Your doctor said your condition can improve. That is not the point. What is the point? Do you want to ruin your own happiness? He deserves to know. And what will knowing change? Will he cure you? Will he carry the pregnancy himself? Vanessa shook her head. You do not understand. I understand perfectly. You are afraid, and you want to transfer that fear to him. Marry your husband. Continue your treatment. The day you conceive, all of this will become irrelevant. Vanessa allowed herself to believe her. Before the wedding, both families requested basic medical tests. Genotype, blood group, and HIV screening were included. Fertility screening was not. Vanessa said nothing. She married Damilare in a beautiful ceremony attended by hundreds of guests. She wore a white lace gown that fitted her perfectly. And when Damilare promised to love and protect her, she cried again. Everyone assumed they were tears of joy. Only Vanessa and her mother knew that some of those tears were caused by guilt. The first year of their marriage was beautiful. They moved into a spacious home in Chevron Estate. Damilare traveled frequently for property projects, while Vanessa continued working at her agency. They decorated the house together. They hosted friends on weekends. They traveled to Zanzibar for their first anniversary. For the first few months, they did not worry about pregnancy. Damilare wanted children, but he did not pressure her. Let us enjoy ourselves first, he would say. Once children enter this house, we will never know peace again. Vanessa would laugh, but privately, she monitored her body obsessively. She downloaded fertility applications. She used ovulation strips. She attended appointments without Damilare's knowledge. Her doctor prescribed medication to regulate her hormones. He encouraged her to improve her diet, exercise, and return for regular scans. Whenever Damilare asked where she was going, she said she had a work meeting or a dental appointment. After 8 months without pregnancy, Vanessa began to panic. Her periods remained irregular. One of the fibroids had increased slightly in size. Her doctor suggested that she bring her husband so they could discuss their options as a couple. I cannot do that, she said. Why? He does not know. The doctor removed his glasses. Your husband does not know that you have fibroids and PCOS. Vanessa looked away. I plan to tell him. When? I am still trying to decide. You are married. These decisions now affect both of you. He will think I deceived him. The doctor said nothing. His silence was enough. When Vanessa returned home that evening, Damilare was in the kitchen attempting to prepare jollof rice. The food was too salty, and half of the rice was burnt. Vanessa laughed until tears filled her eyes. Damilare wrapped his arms around her from behind. At least our children will know their father tried. The mention of children caused her body to stiffen. Damilare noticed. What is wrong? Nothing. Are you sure? She forced a smile. I am just tired. He kissed her forehead and told her to rest. That night, Vanessa lay beside him, listening to his breathing. She almost woke him and confessed everything. But fear won again. By their second wedding anniversary, relatives had started asking questions. At family gatherings, people looked at Vanessa's stomach before looking at her face. Damilare's mother, Mrs. Adeyemi, was initially careful. My daughter, are you taking care of yourself? She asked one afternoon. Yes, Mummy. You know I am not pressuring you. I am only asking. Vanessa smiled. I understand. But on their way home, she became angry. Why was your mother asking me questions about pregnancy? Damilare glanced at her. She asks questions about everything. She was not talking to both of us. She was talking to me. I will speak to her. That is what you always say. Damilare frowned. When has this happened before? Vanessa did not answer. The truth was that the question had awakened her deepest insecurity. She knew that as time passed, people would increasingly assume the problem came from her. She needed protection. Rather than tell the truth, she began to redirect suspicion. The first time she questioned Damilare's fertility, she presented it gently. Maybe we should both run some tests, she said. Damilare nodded. I agree. His quick response surprised her. She had expected resistance. They visited a fertility clinic together. Vanessa chose a different hospital from the one treating her so that her records would not appear. The doctor requested several tests from both of them. Vanessa completed the blood tests but avoided the ultrasound scan. She claimed work had become too demanding and repeatedly postponed it. Damilare completed his semen analysis. The results showed that his sperm count and motility were within normal ranges. He showed Vanessa the report. Everything looks fine, he said. She barely glanced at it. Tests can be wrong. Damilare stared at her. What does that mean? It means one result does not prove anything. What did your own results say? They said my hormones were slightly unbalanced because of stress. It was not a complete lie, but it was nowhere close to the full truth. Damilare suggested they return to the doctor together. Vanessa refused. I do not want to become obsessed with this, she said. But you were the one who suggested the tests. I have changed my mind. That conversation marked the beginning of a new phase in their marriage. Vanessa's fear gradually became anger. Each negative pregnancy test felt like a personal attack. Each menstrual period felt like humiliation. Instead of confronting the possibility that her condition was affecting conception, she began blaming Damilare. At first, the comments were subtle. Are you sure that laboratory knew what they were doing? Maybe your count changes from time to time. Perhaps you should stop drinking. Damilare rarely drank. When he reminded her of this, she accused him of becoming defensive. During their third year of marriage, the pressure intensified. Damilare's younger sister became pregnant 3 months after her wedding. At the baby shower, Vanessa smiled, took photographs, and presented expensive gifts. But on the drive home, she cried. Damilare reached for her hand. Our time will come. Vanessa pulled her hand away. You always say that, because I believe it. Belief does not create children. He remained quiet. She turned towards him. Maybe you should repeat your test. Why? Because something is obviously wrong. We both need to continue the evaluation. So now you are blaming me. I did not say that. You did not have to. Damilare tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Vanessa, I have never blamed you, not once. But you are thinking it. I am thinking that we are a married couple and we should deal with this together. She laughed bitterly. That is easy for you to say. Why? Because men never carry the shame. Everybody looks at the woman. I have defended you every time anyone has asked me a question. And maybe you are the reason there is no child to defend me with. Damilare turned to look at her. What did you say? Vanessa immediately regretted it, but pride would not allow her to apologize. You heard me. They drove the rest of the way in silence. The first time Vanessa called her husband impotent, it happened during their 4th year of marriage. They had attended the naming ceremony of one of Damilare's friends. The celebration was loud and joyful. Guests danced. Older women carried the baby from one person to another. A woman Vanessa barely knew sat beside her. Madam, when are we coming to your own naming ceremony? Vanessa smiled tightly. Very soon. You people should not delay too much. Career is good, but children are important. Before Vanessa could respond, another woman laughed. Maybe they are enjoying honeymoon. The women continued joking, unaware of the pain behind Vanessa's smile. Damilare noticed her discomfort and walked over. My wife, are you ready to leave? Vanessa nodded. On the way home, she accused him of abandoning her. You stood there laughing while those women mocked me. They were not mocking you. You heard what they said. That is why I came to take you away. You should have defended me. What did you expect me to do? Start fighting at a naming ceremony? You could have told them the problem is not from me. Damilare's expression changed. How do you know that? Vanessa hesitated. Then she allowed anger to speak. Because I know my body. And I know my test results. Your useless test results. Vanessa, stop. She turned towards him. Maybe the truth is that you are impotent. Damilare stepped on the brake so suddenly that the car behind them sounded its horn. He pulled over to the side of the road. What did you call me? Vanessa's heart pounded, but she refused to retreat. You heard me. Never say that to me again. If the word hurts you, maybe you should do something about it. Damilare stared at her for several seconds. Then he turned back to the road and drove home. That night, he slept in the guest room. By morning, Vanessa's anger had faded. She wanted to apologize, but Damilare left early for work. When he returned, he behaved as though nothing had happened. His silence made it easier for Vanessa to avoid taking responsibility. A week later, they returned to their normal routine. But something had changed. Vanessa had discovered that the word could wound him. Whenever she felt cornered, she used it again. When Damilare confronted her about spending too much money on secret medical appointments, she called him impotent. When he complained that she was becoming emotionally distant, she called him impotent. When he asked why she no longer wanted intimacy unless she believed she was ovulating, she called him impotent. The word became a shield. It prevented him from asking questions she did not want to answer. It shifted attention away from her secret. Over time, Vanessa became bolder. During one quarrel, she said, "A man who cannot impregnate his wife should not be making decisions in this house." During another, she told him, "Maybe your mother should have taken you for proper treatment before allowing you to marry someone's daughter." Damilare usually walked away. He never insulted her in return. He had been raised by a father who believed that a man's strength was shown by his ability to control himself. But each insult settled somewhere inside him. He began speaking less. He spent more time at work. Their home remained beautiful, but the warmth disappeared. They stopped hosting friends. They stopped traveling together. They slept in the same bed, but felt like strangers sharing a hotel room. While Vanessa publicly blamed her husband, she continued receiving treatment in secret. She changed hospitals twice to avoid recognition. She took hormonal medication and supplements. She underwent repeated scans. At one stage, a doctor recommended a procedure to remove the two largest fibroids. Vanessa refused. "What if the surgery affects my womb?" she asked. "The fibroids themselves may be affecting your chances of pregnancy," the doctor explained. "I need time to think." She did not tell Damilare. Instead, she told him she was attending a work conference in Abuja and checked into a private clinic for 3 days to undergo a less invasive procedure. Her mother stayed with her. When she returned home, she claimed she had food poisoning during the conference. Damilare took care of her without suspicion. He prepared soup, collected her medication, and cancelled meetings so he could remain at home. As he placed a cold towel on her forehead, Vanessa nearly confessed. She looked at the kindness in his eyes and hated herself. But once again, she remained silent. By their 6th year of marriage, Vanessa had become desperate. The treatments had improved some of her symptoms, but pregnancy had not occurred. Her doctor recommended that she and her husband consider assisted reproductive treatment. "You cannot continue doing this alone," the doctor told her. "Your husband needs to be involved." Vanessa shook her head. "He will leave me." "You do not know that." "I know men." "Do you know your husband?" The question stayed with her. But instead of giving her courage, it made her more defensive. At home, she increased the pressure on Damilare. She encouraged him to visit different prayer houses. She bought herbal mixtures for him and became angry when he refused to drink them. One evening, she brought home a bottle filled with a dark liquid. "What is that?" Damilare asked. "It is for cleansing." "Cleansing what?" She placed it on the table. A woman at the office recommended it. Her husband used it, and she became pregnant. "I am not drinking that." "Why?" "Because I do not know what is inside." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "You are always making excuses." "I have done 3 fertility tests in 6 years. All of them came back normal." "And where is the child?" "That question applies to both of us." Her expression hardened. "So now you are blaming me again?" "I am asking you to complete the tests the doctors requested." "I have completed them." "Then show me the results." "I do not have to prove anything to you, but I have had to prove myself repeatedly." Vanessa laughed. "What exactly have you proved?" "That you can produce a piece of paper. A complete man produces children." Damilare. He looked at her with visible pain. "Do you hear yourself when you speak to me?" "I am tired of protecting your feelings. And I am tired of being punished for something we have not even properly investigated." She pushed the bottle towards him. "Drink it." "No." "Drink it." Damilare stood. "I said no." Vanessa swept the bottle off the table. It fell onto the tiled floor and shattered. The dark liquid spread between them. "You are useless," she shouted. Completely useless. What kind of man cannot impregnate his own wife? Damilare looked at the broken glass. Then he looked at her. Without saying a word, he went upstairs. The next morning, Vanessa found the mess cleaned. Damilare had already left for work. 3 weeks later, Damilare returned home early from a cancelled meeting. Vanessa was not at home. The housekeeper informed him that she had gone out with her mother. Damilare went upstairs to change. As he entered the bedroom, he noticed that one of Vanessa's handbags had fallen from the chair. Its contents were scattered across the floor. He bent down to gather them. A wallet, lipstick, car keys, a small bottle of medication, and a folded envelope bearing the name of a private women's hospital. Damilare picked it up. At first, he intended to place it back in the bag. Then he saw the date. It was from 2 weeks earlier. He remembered Vanessa telling him she had attended a client meeting that day. His hands became still. For years, he had resisted the temptation to search his wife's belongings. Even when he suspected that she was hiding something, he told himself that marriage required trust. But trust had slowly become a punishment. Damilare opened the envelope. Inside was a scan report. The medical language was difficult to understand, but certain words stood out. Multiple uterine fibroids. Polycystic ovarian morphology. History of infertility. Previous treatment. There was also a handwritten note recommending fertility treatment and a possible surgical consultation. Damilare read the paper again, then a third time. His heartbeat became louder. He searched through the other documents in the envelope. There were test results dating back several years. One report was dated 7 months before their wedding. Damilare lowered himself onto the edge of the bed. 7 months before their wedding. Vanessa had known. She had known before she stood before him and promised there would be no secrets between them. She had known during every hospital visit they attended together. She had known every time she accused him of being the problem. She had known every time she called him impotent. Damilare felt as though the walls were closing around him. He picked up his phone and photographed the reports. Then he returned everything to the envelope exactly as he had found it. His first instinct was to confront her immediately, but he needed to understand what he had seen. Damilare sent the photographs to Dr. Folarin, an old university friend who worked as a gynecologist in Abuja. A few minutes later, Folarin called. Dami, whose reports are these? Tell me what they mean. I cannot diagnose someone from photographs alone. I understand. Just explain what is written. Folarin hesitated. The report suggests that the patient has multiple fibroids and PCOS. Both conditions can affect fertility, depending on severity. Could she have known about this for years? The dates suggest she did. Does it mean she can never have children? No. Do not jump to that conclusion. Many women with these conditions conceive naturally or with treatment, but she would need proper care. Why are you asking? Damilare closed his eyes. They belonged to Vanessa. There was a long silence. Does she know you found them? No. Have you discussed fertility treatment before? For 6 years. And she never mentioned any of this? No. Folarin sighed. I am sorry. Damilare's voice became low. She has spent years telling me I am impotent. Dami, she knew. Do not make any decisions while you are angry. I am not angry. But that was not true. Damilare was beyond anger. He felt humiliated. He remembered every prayer meeting Vanessa had forced him to attend, every herbal mixture, every insult. Every night he questioned his manhood despite normal test results. He remembered apologizing for failing her. He remembered believing that perhaps the laboratories had missed something. All along, Vanessa had watched him suffer while secretly treating herself. When Vanessa returned home that evening, Damilare was sitting in the living room. She kissed his cheek. You came back early. Yes. How was your meeting? Cancelled. She nodded and went upstairs. Damilare watched her leave. He expected guilt to appear in her movements, but Vanessa looked completely normal. That frightened him more than anything. For the next 2 months, Damilare said nothing. Vanessa continued with her routine, unaware that her secret had been exposed. Damilare watched her carefully. He observed how easily she lied about hospital appointments. One Tuesday morning, she told him she was meeting a client in Victoria Island. Damilare knew from the appointment reminder that appeared briefly on her tablet that she was visiting her fertility doctor. "Good luck with the client," he said. "Thank you." She kissed him and left. Damilare sat alone in the dining room for nearly an hour. He wondered whether their entire marriage had been a performance. He consulted a lawyer. He did not immediately file for divorce, but he wanted to understand his options. The lawyer explained that hiding a medical condition was not automatically enough to invalidate their marriage, particularly because the conditions did not make pregnancy impossible. However, the prolonged deception and emotional abuse could be relevant if he decided to end the marriage. Damilare also repeated his fertility test without telling Vanessa. The result was normal. The doctor assured him that nothing in the analysis suggested impotence or infertility. Damilare stared at the report. For 6 years, Vanessa had convinced him to doubt what medical evidence repeatedly showed. He should have confronted her. Instead, he became emotionally detached. He stopped trying to save the marriage. That was when he met Temilade again. Temilade had been his friend during university. They had never dated, although people often assumed they would. She was now an interior architect and had recently returned to Nigeria after several years in Canada. Damilare hired her company to design the lobby of a new apartment development. Their first meeting was professional. Their second included lunch. By the fourth, Damilare found himself telling her things he had never told anyone. He spoke about the childlessness, the insults, the medical results, the secret his wife had carried into their marriage. Temilade listened without interrupting. "What she did was wrong," she said. "But you need to decide whether you want to repair the marriage or leave it." "I do not know." "You cannot remain in the middle forever." Damilare nodded. He knew she was right. But rather than make a decision, he continued seeing Temilade. The friendship crossed a boundary during a business trip to Abuja. Damilare knew it was wrong. He knew betrayal could not heal betrayal. But in Temilade's presence, he felt respected again. He felt wanted. He felt like a man whose worth was not measured by the absence of a child. The affair lasted only a few weeks, before guilt forced him to end it. "We cannot continue," he told her. Temilade agreed. Neither of them made dramatic promises. They returned to their separate lives. 6 weeks later, Temilade called him. She was pregnant. Damilare sat in his car outside his office, unable to speak. "Are you sure?" he finally asked. "I have done 3 tests and visited a hospital." Damilare gripped the steering wheel. "What do you want to do?" "I am keeping the baby." He closed his eyes. "I will take responsibility. I am not asking you to abandon your wife. My marriage was already broken. Broken is not the same as ended." Damilare knew she was right. For several days, he felt trapped between shame and relief. He was ashamed that he had become unfaithful, but beneath the shame was undeniable confirmation. He could father a child. The accusation Vanessa had used to reduce him for years had finally lost its power. Damilare decided he would tell her everything. Before he could choose the right moment, Vanessa started another quarrel. The argument began because Damilare did not attend a 3-day prayer program Vanessa had arranged. "You promised you would come," she said as he entered the house that evening. "I told you I had a meeting." "You always have a meeting when it is time to deal with our problem." Damilare removed his wristwatch. "Our problem?" "Yes, our problem." "What exactly is our problem, Vanessa?" She glared at him. "You know." "No, say it." "Do not start behaving strangely. I asked you a question. Our inability to have a child. And what do you believe is causing it?" Vanessa paused. She sensed something unusual in his tone, but could not identify it. We have discussed this many times. Discuss it again. She folded her arms. You need help. What kind of help? Medical help. Spiritual help. Any kind of help that will make you function like a man. Damilare nodded slowly. Is there anything about your own health that might be relevant? Her face changed for half a second. Then she recovered. No, nothing at all? Why are you questioning me? Because I want to hear you say it. Say what? That the problem is entirely mine. Vanessa lifted her chin. If you were capable of impregnating me, we would not still be having this conversation after 6 years. Damilare laughed. The sound unsettled her. What is funny? She demanded. You. You think this is a joke? 6 whole years of marriage, and you cannot get your wife pregnant. Yet you walk around this house behaving like a complete man. Damilare stared at her. Vanessa. What? Another woman is already pregnant for me. Her confidence disappeared. What did you say? You heard me. Stop lying. She is 4 months pregnant. Vanessa's face became pale. You cheated on me? Yes. The blunt answer shook her. You are admitting it. I am not proud of it, but I will not lie. Vanessa grabbed a decorative cushion and threw it at him. You wicked bastard. Damilare did not move. How could you do this to me? How could you spend 6 years doing what you did to me? I never slept with another man. No, you only lied to me every day. What are you talking about? Damilare picked up his phone and opened the photographs. He turned the screen towards her. Vanessa looked at the first image. The room seemed to tilt. Her scan, her hospital report, her name, her secret. She stepped backwards. Where did you get that? Does it matter? You searched my things? I found the envelope after your bag fell. You had no right. Damilare laughed again. No right. You married me while hiding multiple fibroids and PCOS. You secretly received treatment for 6 years. You watched me visit hospitals, prayer houses, and laboratories. You called me impotent while carrying medical reports that showed you had conditions affecting your fertility. Tears filled Vanessa's eyes. It is not that simple. It is exactly that simple. I was afraid. So you destroyed me. I did not destroy you. You made me question my body, my dignity, and my sanity. You used my love for you against me. I never said I could not have children. I never said you could not. Damilare's voice rose for the first time. That is the worst part, Vanessa. Fibroids and PCOS did not make you a bad woman. Hiding them because you were afraid did not even have to destroy us. We could have faced everything together. He pointed towards her. But you decided that the best way to protect yourself was to make me carry your shame. Vanessa began crying. My mother told me not to tell you. You were 28 years old when we met, not 8. She said you would leave, and you believed humiliating me would make me stay. I became desperate. You became cruel. I am sorry. Damilare shook his head. No, you are afraid of the consequences. That is different from being sorry. Vanessa wiped her face. And you? You think sleeping with another woman makes you innocent. No. His answer silenced her. I was wrong, he continued. I should have ended this marriage before touching anyone else. I betrayed my vows, and I will live with that. But my wrongdoing does not erase yours. Who is she? That is not important. It is important to me. She is keeping the child. I will take responsibility. Vanessa shook her head repeatedly. No, you are lying. You arranged this to punish me. I wish I had. You cannot bring another woman's child into this house. Damilare's expression became cold. This will no longer be your house. Vanessa stared at him. What? I have spoken to a lawyer. You want a divorce? I wanted the truth. You gave me 6 years of lies. She moved towards him. Damilare, please. He stepped away. Do not touch me. The rejection struck her harder than shouting would have. We can fix this, she pleaded. Can we? Yes. I will tell you everything. I will take you to my doctors. We can start treatment together. Now, I was scared. And I was your husband. I love you. No, Vanessa. You loved the protection I gave you. You loved having someone to blame. You loved knowing that whenever people questioned our childlessness, you could point at me and keep your secret safe. That is not true. Did you know about the fibroids before our wedding? She lowered her eyes. Answer me. Yes. Did you know about the PCOS? Yes. Did you secretly receive treatment throughout our marriage? Yes. Did you repeatedly tell me there was nothing medically wrong with you? Vanessa's shoulders trembled. Yes. Damilare nodded. Then start counting your days in this house. He walked upstairs, leaving Vanessa alone in the living room. For years, she had imagined the moment her secret might be exposed. In every version, Damilare shouted, he accused her. He called both families. He threw her belongings outside. She had never imagined something worse. His complete emotional withdrawal. By the following morning, both families knew there was a crisis. Vanessa called her mother first. Mrs. Ajayi arrived at the house before noon. What were you thinking? She demanded when she saw Damilare. Damilare looked at her in disbelief. You knew. Mrs. Ajayi hesitated. I knew about her condition before the marriage, but the doctors said she could still have children. That is not the issue. You have gone outside your marriage and impregnated another woman. Do not act as though you are the victim. I have admitted that what I did was wrong. Then end the relationship and focus on your wife. Damilare stared at her. For 6 years, your daughter called me impotent while both of you knew the truth. Mrs. Ajayi's expression shifted. I never told her to insult you, but you told her to deceive me. I was protecting my child. From the man she wanted to marry? From rejection? Damilare nodded slowly. And who protected me? Mrs. Ajayi had no answer. Damilare's parents arrived later that evening. His mother cried after hearing everything. Mrs. Adeyemi had always suspected there was more to Vanessa's behavior, but even she had not expected such prolonged deception. The two families sat in the large living room. Vanessa occupied one sofa beside her mother. Damilare sat opposite them, with his parents beside him. Vanessa's father, who had traveled from Abeokuta, looked devastated. Unlike his wife, he had never known about the medical diagnosis. Is this true? He asked Vanessa. You knew before the wedding? Vanessa nodded through tears. Her father lowered his head. You should have told him. Mrs. Ajayi became defensive. And if she told him and he refused to marry her? Then she would have known he was not the right man. You men can speak because you do not understand what women face. Mr. Ajayi turned towards his wife. What she faced does not justify what she did. Mrs. Adeyemi looked at Damilare. And the pregnant woman. She is 4 months pregnant. Do you love her? Damilare hesitated. I care about her. That was not my question. I do not know what love means anymore. Vanessa covered her face and began sobbing. Mrs. Adeyemi shook her head. My son, your wife's actions were terrible. But what you did was also wrong. I know. A child is now involved. You cannot undo that. I know. Vanessa looked up. I am ready to forgive him. Everyone turned towards her. I am ready to accept the child, she continued quickly. We can raise the baby together. I will do whatever is necessary. Damilare stared at her. You think this is about whether you forgive me? I am trying to save our marriage. No, you are trying to avoid losing. Her eyes widened. Damilare, you turned marriage into a competition. You had to be innocent, so I had to be guilty. You had to be fertile, so I had to be impotent. Now another woman is pregnant, and suddenly you are offering forgiveness because the truth has removed your hiding place. Vanessa stood. I said I am sorry, and I heard you. What else do you want from me? The 6 years I lost. The room fell silent. Damilare continued. I want the man I was before I started questioning myself. I want the peace I had before my wife turned my private pain into an insult. I want the trust I gave you. His eyes filled with tears, but he refused to allow them to fall. You cannot return any of those things. Vanessa sat down slowly. Damilare's father finally spoke. You do not have to make a final decision today. I have already made it. Marriage is not something you throw away in anger. I am not angry anymore, Daddy. That was the truth. The anger had burned itself out. Only exhaustion remained. I will take responsibility for the child, Damilare said, and I will proceed with the separation. Vanessa's mother protested, but Vanessa remained silent. For the first time, she understood that there was nothing she could say to control the outcome. Vanessa moved out of the house 2 weeks later. Damilare allowed her to take everything she had purchased and several items they had bought together. He also transferred enough money to cover her living expenses for 6 months, despite his lawyer advising him against unnecessary financial commitments. Vanessa rented a serviced apartment in Ikoyi because she could not bear to return to her parents' home. The silence in the apartment was unbearable. For 6 years, she had blamed Damilare for every negative pregnancy test. Now there was no one left to blame. Her doctor recommended surgery to remove the largest fibroids before further fertility treatment. Vanessa finally agreed. She entered the hospital without lies or fake business trips. Her father accompanied her. Her mother wanted to come, but Vanessa refused. You were trying to protect me, she told Mrs. Ajayi, but you taught me that fear was more important than truth. Mrs. Ajayi began crying. I did what I thought was best. I know. Do not blame me for everything. I do not. I made my own choices. The surgery was successful. During her recovery, Vanessa started therapy. At first, she spoke mainly about Damilare's affair. She described the betrayal in detail and explained how deeply it had humiliated her. The therapist listened patiently. Then she asked, what do you think your husband experienced when you repeatedly attacked his manhood? Vanessa became defensive. I was in pain. That explains your actions. It does not remove their effect. Vanessa looked away. I apologized. Were you apologizing for lying, or because the lie stopped working? The question cut deeply. For weeks, Vanessa considered ending the therapy, but something inside her knew she needed to remain. Slowly, she began confronting the parts of herself she had hidden, her fear of rejection, her obsession with appearing perfect, her belief that vulnerability would make her powerless, her habit of attacking others before they could expose her weakness. She realized that she had not only lied to Damilare, she had punished him for making her feel safe enough to need him. Damilare also entered therapy. He did not tell Vanessa. He needed to confront why he had remained in an emotionally abusive marriage for so long without setting boundaries. He also needed to accept responsibility for his affair. Temilade never pressured him to marry her. She focused on preparing for the baby and continued running her company. Damilare attended medical appointments and provided financial support. When she gave birth to a boy, he held his son and cried. They named him Nathan. The first time Damilare looked at the child's tiny face, he felt joy, guilt, and grief at once. Nathan was innocent. He was not evidence in an argument. He was not proof of Damilare's manhood. He was simply a child who deserved love. Damilare promised himself that he would never allow the circumstances of Nathan's conception to become a weapon against him. He and Temilade decided to co-parent, while slowly examining whether they could build a healthy relationship. There would be no rushed wedding, no attempt to turn betrayal into a romantic victory. They had both participated in hurting another person, and they refused to pretend otherwise. The divorce became final almost a year after Vanessa left the house. There was no dramatic courtroom battle. Vanessa did not contest it. By then, she understood that forcing Damilare to remain would not restore what she had destroyed. On the day the documents were finalized, They met at a quiet restaurant in Victoria Island. It was the first time they had sat alone together in months. Vanessa looked different. She had cut her hair shorter and stopped wearing the heavy makeup she once used like armor. Damilare looked calmer. There was still distance between them, but the hatred Vanessa had feared was absent. "How is your son?" she asked. "He is doing well. I saw a picture your sister posted." Damilare nodded. Vanessa looked down at her hands. "He has your eyes." "So everyone says." They sat in silence. Then Vanessa took a deep breath. "I am not here to ask you to come back." Damilare looked at her. "I know I have apologized before, but those apologies were about consequences. I was afraid of losing my marriage, my home, and the way people saw me." She paused. "I was not thinking about what I had done to you." Damilare said nothing. Vanessa continued, "You did not deserve the things I said. You did not deserve to be blamed for a condition I knew I had. You did not deserve to be dragged from hospital to hospital while I hid my own reports. I made you feel defective because I was terrified that you would see me that way." Her voice trembled. "I am sorry." Damilare looked out of the window. For years, he had imagined hearing those words. Now that they had finally arrived, they did not erase the pain, but they touched something inside him. "I forgive you," he said. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. "Forgiveness does not mean we should have remained married," he added. "I understand, and I am sorry for the affair. Whatever you did, I had other choices. I should have left before becoming involved with Temilad." Vanessa nodded. "Do you love her?" "I am learning to." The answer hurt, but Vanessa accepted it. "Are you going to marry her?" "Not yet. We are taking things slowly." Vanessa managed a small smile. "That is probably wise." Damilare looked at her. "What will you do now?" "Live honestly." He waited. "My doctors say my chances are better after the surgery. I might still have children one day. I might not. I am trying to learn that my value cannot depend entirely on that." "That is good." "I wish I had learned it before I met you." "So do I." They both smiled sadly. When they stood to leave, Vanessa expected a handshake. Instead, Damilare hugged her briefly. There was no romance in it. It was a farewell between two people who had once loved each other, but had allowed fear, pride, and betrayal to destroy the life they might have shared. As Damilare walked away, Vanessa cried. But she did not cry because she wanted him back. She cried for the marriage that honesty might have saved. She cried for the young woman who had believed that a medical diagnosis made her unworthy of love. She cried for the man who had loved her enough to face the truth, but had never been given the opportunity. Most of all, she cried because she finally understood something she should have known 6 years earlier. The fibroids had not destroyed her marriage. PCOS had not destroyed her marriage. Childlessness had not destroyed her marriage. Fear had planted the seed. Deception had watered it. Cruelty had allowed it to grow. And by the time the truth finally entered their home, there was no marriage left to save. 3 years later, Vanessa stood backstage at a women's health conference in Lagos. She had been invited to speak during a session about fertility challenges and emotional well-being in marriage. The hall was filled with women of different ages. Some were married, some were single, some had children. Others had spent years trying to conceive. Vanessa had built a small support foundation for women dealing with fibroids, PCOS, and fertility-related anxiety. She did not present herself as a victim. She told the truth. She spoke about receiving her diagnosis before marriage. She spoke about hiding it. She spoke about the shame that drove her to blame an innocent person. She did not mention Damilare's name, but she took full responsibility for the harm she had caused. "A medical condition is not a moral failure," she told the audience. "But the fear of being rejected can make us behave in ways that destroy the love we are trying to protect." Several women wiped tears from their faces. Vanessa continued, "Do not allow shame to make decisions for you. The person you intend to marry deserves the truth. They may stay, they may leave, But hiding the truth does not guarantee love. It only guarantees that fear will become part of the foundation of your relationship. After the event, a young woman approached her. She looked nervous. I was diagnosed with PCOS last month, she said. My fiance does not know. Vanessa held her hand. When is the wedding? In 4 months. Tell him. What if he leaves? Vanessa's expression softened. Then it will hurt. But it will hurt less than building a marriage in which you are always terrified of being discovered. The woman nodded slowly. Were you ever able to have a child? Vanessa smiled. No, not yet. Does that still frighten you? Sometimes. She placed a hand over her heart. But I no longer punish myself or anyone else for something my body is struggling to do. Across Lagos, Damilare was celebrating Nathan's third birthday. The house was filled with balloons, laughter, and children running in every direction. Temilade stood beside him as Nathan attempted to blow out the candles before everyone finished singing. Damilare laughed and lifted his son into his arms. He and Temilade had married quietly 6 months earlier, after years of therapy, honest conversations, and rebuilding trust. Their relationship was not celebrated as a perfect love story. It had begun during a broken season, and both of them knew that. But they had decided that their future would not be built on denial. Damilare occasionally remembered Vanessa. He no longer remembered her with bitterness. Some wounds did not disappear, but they stopped controlling the person carrying them. He hoped she found peace. He hoped she eventually experienced the kind of love she once believed she had to deceive in order to keep. And Vanessa, standing before a room filled with women, had finally begun to find that peace. Not in a new husband, not in a pregnancy test, not in pretending her past had never happened. She found it in telling the truth. Because some secrets protect a person only for a moment. After that, they become prisons. And the day the truth finally opens the door, it may already be too late to recover everything that was lost.